and welcome. My name is Kelly Olson Stewart. I'm an associate professor and the lead faculty for the PhD in Ed program here at UAGC. I am pleased to be the host of this session, An Attitude of Gratitude, bringing the culture of care into every interaction. By joining us today, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded and will be shared with the TLC related materials. Microphones will be muted for this presentation, but we encourage you to post comments and questions in the chat. We've also enabled live transcription, and if you would like to use it, if you would click the live transcription button at the bottom of your Zoom window on your toolbar. Now, I am pleased to turn this over and introduce your presenters, Stephanie Kilby and Jennifer Horan. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Jennifer Horan. I'm Director of Student Success at the University of Arizona Global Campus. And my bachelor's degree was in human development with the emphasis in counseling. And my master's degree was in education with a specialization in family and community services. So you can tell education and student success has always been a passion of mine. I've been very grateful to be working in the realm of student services for over 10 years now. I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie.
Good morning and good afternoon. I am Stephanie Kilby. I am also Director of Student Success at University of Arizona Global Campus. I have been with the university for about 9.5 years, for a couple of years in the registrar's office and then over to student services, where I really get to take a role in shaping our advising model and the support that we give to our students as they retain and graduate at our university. I also have a personal connection here because I have an undergraduate degree in business administration and my master's degree in organizational management, both through the university. I was an adult returning to school who needed the accessibility and flexibility of an online university, but came to really appreciate the support and care that I received. So really excited to be here today. So honored to follow Dr. Sarah Steinberg and her opening remarks. Hopefully everybody had a chance to hear those. And really my main takeaway as we go into our presentation is how far online institutions have come, how far higher education has come, and how much work there is left to do. So hopefully we can all engage together in a conversation that is a very large conversation that we are going to try to have in a very small amount of time. But just want to start out with a quick poll. So we did open up the poll on the Whova app prior to our session. And tried to engage and see kind of where people were at with their own understanding of their application of care to the interactions that they have. But I want to do that again quickly here in this session. So just considering how you interact with others, which of these would you consider to be your greatest strength? Saying that you care, sounding like you care, showing that you care. So I'll give everybody just a moment here. And answers are pretty true to what I was seeing before on our pre-session app. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share some results. 100% of our session attendees say showing that they care is really where their strength lies. And really the great thing about this poll is there's no right answer and no wrong answer. These three things really need to be in sync with each other in order for us to create a culture that is a sharing culture that we have with all of our interactions with other people. If your tone is not matching your words, if your words are not matching your actions, what we end up with is a conflicting message and really a lost opportunity. Right? Every interaction that we have is a chance to exemplify care. And each of us is accountable for our own contributions. So if we ever leave an interaction and think, man, there was just no care there, it's not because of a lack of opportunity, but more likely a lack of focus. So we're going to talk today about how Jennifer and I and our entire student services department bring care into our conversations, into every interaction, because that's the message that we need to give students and all those around us through what we say, how we sound, and what we show. So when we first heard the theme of the Teaching and Learning Conference this year, we knew we had to get involved because care is what we do. It's the foundation of how we work with our students. It is the basis of how we lead our teams and is really how we align ourselves with the university goals and mission. And it really begins with having a great team of people around you who are mission focused, who want to help each other and help students. But it requires consistency and a focused effort to make sure that it's happening across the boards. So we're going to start by going way back to the early 1980s when David Cooprider came up with his theory of appreciative inquiry. It's really where it all started. And at the very highest level, appreciative inquiry was saying that you had to place the focus on strengths as opposed to just minimizing weaknesses. That sounds a lot like care to me. 20 years later, Doctors Jennifer Bloom and Nancy Archer Martin developed that into an advising model called appreciative advising, which we have a visual of here. Appreciative advising is 6 phases that really enable an advisor and a student to have a meeting of the minds and a relationship, a partnership to collaborate on a path forward. Strengths-based advising is another term for it. This has, over the past 20 years, morphed into appreciative administration and the higher arching appreciative education. And the reason that we wanted to start here is that today we're going to talk about the service model. And the service model really has its roots in appreciative advising, but it's a way to carry through every interaction the fundamentals that lean into strengths-based advising. And then also we will share some applicable skills that you can use so that when you leave here, you're able to take this into all the interactions that you have. So we're going to go ahead and start walking through our model, but our charge for you is just that you consider where you are already applying some of these concepts. And as you leave here, think about what opportunities you have to bring it further into your interactions.
So our first phase, and it's important that we consider them as phases and not steps, is because what you'll learn here is they're fluid. You're going to go into each phase and multiple times throughout your interaction. And that first phase is engagement. And this is where you're going to build trust with whoever you're interacting with. So I know when we started the poll, a lot of us, or rather all of us, are comfortable in how we show that we care. But what we have to remember is that perception is reality. So although we may think that we're showing we care, is the other person actually receiving it in that way? And in this engagement phase, you're going to lay the groundwork. You're going to build trust. And the way that you're going to do that is really to listen to what the other person's saying. And against all of your instincts, avoid matching their tone. You're going to listen to what they're saying, and you're going to set the pace with your own tone to how you want this conversation or interaction to go. And this doesn't have to just be done in the workplace. This can be used in personal interactions too. So really challenge yourself to think about someone that challenges you in your interactions and how you could have changed your tone to really set the pace for the interaction. The other key piece that you want to lean into is, although empathy is one of the most important traits and behaviors that we can have, sometimes it's not always realistic. We can't truly place ourselves in that individual's shoes because then we lose our authenticity. And in those instances, that is okay. You want to lean into your compassion at that point. Be a human, humanize your interactions, and listen to really get to know that individual, to build that trust, and show them that you're hearing what they say. You may not have been able to walk in their shoes, but you absolutely can understand where they're coming from, and you're going to lay the groundwork for the next phases of our interactions as well.
So next we want to talk about discovery, which is just like it sounds. It's an opportunity to gain insights. If you think about how you show care to those people in your life that are close to you, really it starts with taking an interest in what they're doing and what's important to them and what their motivators are. And we cannot do that if we don't have some aspect of discovery in our interactions. So it's about asking questions with the intent to learn more and to understand, not with the intent to provide an answer. That comes later. So asking questions should really be intentional and driving towards better understanding. It's not about the number of questions. Sometimes I hear I believe there's something that's like 5 questions, right? Always ask another one until you get to 5. It's not about the number. It's about the intent behind them and what you're learning through it. The skills that really go into this are active listening and again, your tone. So active listening means taking the answer and determining, okay, do I need to know more? Should I know more? And then asking that follow-up question that makes sense and is relevant to what the other person is saying. Our VP in Student Services taught me 3 little words that are magic when it comes to discovery, and that is tell me more. You have a challenge, tell me more. You have an idea, tell me more. Tell me more is just another way of saying, I care about your situation. I want to learn more about your perspective. Tell me more. Active listening should also drive those follow-up questions, but don't fall into the trap of giving an answer that you think that they're going to want you to give. So a lot of times we see situations where similar circumstances come across. Students need to take a break. That's a very common conversation for our advisors to have. But the direction that that conversation goes is different for each individual. We shouldn't already be going into that conversation thinking, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do because I've heard this before. You have to really separate your experience from the conversation that you're having when you're in the discovery phase, because that's the only way that you can truly learn from the person that you're interacting with.
That's going to lend you into advisement. And hopefully, through your engagement, you'll be able to lay the groundwork with the person you're interacting with so that you can truly lean into some appropriate advisement here. And sometimes what that means is giving someone advice that they may not want to hear at that time, but you've built the trust that they need in you to know that you're coming from a very sound and caring environment. Advisement is your opportunity to really create the individualized part of the conversation, and you get to decide if you're there to offer solutions or if you're just to be a sounding board. And that's something that's very difficult for people, is sometimes you truly do just need to listen and show them that you care, and there may be no solutions that you can offer. And so when you're going through each of these phases, you may find while you're starting to dip your toes into advisement, you don't know enough about that person or that situation. And that is also okay. And what you need to do is step back into discovery. This is why they're phases and not steps. So take a step back, ask more questions. Maybe we didn't ask the right questions in the discovery phase, and we need to lean into different kinds of questions. You have your open-ended questions, close-ended questions. They're all appropriate. It's about giving you all the information you need to make that sound decision. Am I here to listen and that's all, and have a shoulder for them to lean on? Or are they really seeking solutions from me? And to add another layer to that, you're going to be able to determine at that point, is this something they're going to want to hear? And did I do enough groundwork in the engagement piece for them to be okay with what I'm about to say? And if not, guess what you should do? Take 2 steps back, go back into engagement, be more compassionate, ask more personal questions, really think about what's your voice performance sounding like, or if it's an in-person interaction, are you paying full attention to them? Are you making eye contact? What's your environment look like to where you can truly focus on that interaction at that time? Show that you care. Is that person giving you the feeling back that they're picking that up? Do they feel like you're caring? You'll be able to get that vibe very easily in person, but with written communication or on the phone, it's a little bit more difficult. So you have to really lean into their voice performance as well. Is there something that they're not saying? Do you need to ask more questions based off of that? So trust your gut instinct here and just really humanize every interaction with the individual. And when you lean into giving that advisement, some of the most difficult things are to do resource matching, because you're going to try to give them resources that are going to match their solution, not your solution. So you're going to work really hard to co-create a plan with whoever you're interacting with. And that resource matching can be something that you've experienced in the past that's now relatable to that individual. Or maybe it's something at an institution like, University of Arizona Global Campus has a writing center, and maybe this student is struggling with writing. And so we can offer that resource to them. Maybe the resource is really just your shoulder or your ear. So really thinking about what's applicable to this person, and is it going to help them, or is it just an easy way for me to make it out of this conversation? You always want to lean towards it's going to truly help the person that I'm interacting with. And always keep in mind a fundamental piece of appreciative advising is to co-create plans, and the service model is based on appreciative advising. So if you're feeling like this interaction or this advisement is one-sided, then we absolutely do need to take a few steps back and almost start the process over, because it should be something that you're both bought into, you're both excited about, and you both feel comfortable with.
So once you have that co-created plan, it's time to close it out by acting on an advised solution. And so really what that means is it's time to gain buy-in for what you just discussed. We still need to carry through our engagement, our energy, our care, but it's all about setting the expectations for the next interaction. What are you going to do? What am I going to do? I don't know about anybody else, but I have had instances where I've called in to talk about bills and whatnot with other companies, and I hang up the phone and I think, what just happened? Am I supposed to do something or were they going to do something? And what happens is, guess what? Another phone call because I need to rehash all of this to better understand. So really important that the phase of commitment does not get missed. This is all about how do we now take what we talked about and turn it into an action. You have to be open to still going back to those other phases. So Jennifer talked about this. It is not a checkbox to go through all of these and be done. This is about the cycle and the holistic view of your interaction. So if you get to the end and you're talking about what the solution is and what we're going to do next, and there is a miss in the communication, it's time to go back and maybe rediscover some things, talk about some other advising options that may be better suited to the situation. By recapping, by rephrasing what you've gone through, it's an opportunity for each person to speak up and just say, oh, wait a minute, that's not what I thought we discussed. Let's go back to the drawing board. And the other bonus of commitment is that you should always end on a personal note. It's very easy in our advisement phase to get into the nitty gritty and forget to humanize it. But at the end with commitment, you can also bring that back. Again, not just about a checkbox, but I'm really excited about this for you. I can't wait to hear how this plan goes. If you need anything more, don't forget to reach out. I know you're so busy. You mentioned X with work right now, and I want to make sure that this works for your current schedule. Bring in that personal element because that is also going to garner commitment. It's going to make the conversation personal, and it's also going to contribute to that collaboration and that partnership. So Jennifer had talked about empathy a little bit earlier and how we can't always know what it's like to walk in somebody else's shoes, but commitment gives us an opportunity to say, we can't walk in your shoes, but we're going to walk right beside you. And so ending on a personal note is where we close out our interaction.
So today we were hoping to really be your spark. We are in no way intend to be the entire fire for you guys. This is a 30-minute session that's supposed to just spark the way that you think about your interactions with individuals. And I really want you guys to focus on challenging yourself to think of your intent of your words. All your words have meaning. What was the reason why you said it? And was it to really co-create this plan and this interaction with the person that you're talking to or writing with or meeting with? And the goal here, please remind yourself, is to refocus. Refocus on the individual in front of you. Are you listening to be curious and to learn more, or are you listening to provide solutions and check that box off? Put yourself in the box that you think you fit in and be honest with yourself and really assess how you can use the service model and interact with others in a more gratuitous way. This has been something that we've been working on for a little while. So if there's anything that you want to talk to us further about, you can always reach out to us on LinkedIn as well. But right now I'd like to offer it up for any questions that might be out there and any ways that you guys you could see yourself using this in the future.
I love the idea of the leaning in. Like I think it's so strange when we're virtual, right? And sometimes you still find yourself doing it, even if we're not on Zoom, like on a phone call or whatever. But that resonates with me. But I'm curious about how you see the service model in your own personal life as well, because it seemed to resonate with me with my own relationships with children and a significant other.
Absolutely. Or even friends. I think on my part, having any interaction, I always try to think when someone's talking, am I already building responses in my head? Am I building a defense? And if so, then I'm not leaning into the service model and I'm not being engaged. I'm proposing a plan before I've learned anything. So that's my red flag, is interacting with I have a 5-year-old, with my husband, with friends, anyone, am I already building a response and I haven't even heard what they said yet? If so, I take a step back and I refocus and I make sure I'm refocusing on that individual. Stephanie, anything you'd like to add?
I think that's something that's really the beauty of the service model is its simplicity and how it's already applied in most of our lives. There's nothing earth-shattering here. There's nothing new. It's really just taking an interaction and bringing it back down to the human level. Because I think that sometimes we have a tendency, maybe especially in higher education, to overcomplicate things, to overcomplicate a strategy and the way that we feel we need to advise or outreach to students. This is really just about bringing it back to the human level. And so I'm sure what most of you will find is that you're already doing a lot of this. The key is to not get trapped in any one area and miss the care, to make sure, again, that your words and your tone and your actions all align with what you're trying to show. Because again, otherwise it's a missed message.
Yeah, and bring it back to your intent for your commentary. I always like to remind people, it's like, what did you think would be the result of that comment? Like, what is genuine about that? And that will help you reframe your conversations as well, so that you can move fluidly through each of these spaces.
How about what phase do you feel is the most difficult to apply? Where are the challenges and road bumps?
I think this may be different for everybody, but one challenging area is really the transition of discovery to advisement, or just the miss of it discovery entirely. We forget that even though we may be experts and have the resources available, we don't really know what we need to provide until we hear it from the other person. We have to learn before we can move into our advisement. And I think that we get so caught up sometimes in just the pace of our day. Everybody in this room said that they feel a strength in being able to show that you care. That tells me that you're all helpers. You are here to help provide solutions. You want to help people. And with that, you get to move in too quickly towards a solution that may not even be warranted and may not work for the person you're working with. So to me, discovery is the challenge, and more specifically, just missing it entirely. We've got to remember to spend some time there.
And mine is engagement. I am a doer. I like to get things done, cross things off my list. And mentioning the poll as well, a lot of people saying that they feel they show. And that to me sounds like we need to lean more into engagement as a group here. Because what you'll find is you miss the key things that people say. Maybe they mention like, yeah, I had a really rough day, but I was wondering if I could, and they ask you a question, right? Can I borrow an egg for my dinner recipe tonight or something like that? And you miss that beginning part where they said they had a rough day, and you're just like, yeah, I can give you an egg, no problem. And then maybe you share about yourself, instead taking a step back and saying like, yeah, but first let's talk about you. How are you doing? What was rough about your day? Can you share that with me? That extra step changes the entire pace of the conversation. It takes it from a sprint to a nice walk together. And I think that should try to be your goal, is let's not sprint, let's walk. But engagement is the hardest for me because I like to get things done. And it is much more beneficial though to lean into your engagement, because the solution is one that works for everyone. And so I truly do get to say I achieved something here instead of having to revisit something over and over again.
I think the other thing I'd like to just call out is from the poll, but it really comes into play here, and that is the idea of saying that we care. And we can say that we care in a number of different ways, but I do believe that in a professional setting, sometimes it's a line we're afraid to cross, to just say, I care about you. I care about your situation. And we have got to somehow find a way to overcome that, because especially at UAGC, we're working with non-traditional students. Some may have a background where they have no care in their life. We might be that support. And there's nothing that says anybody should have to prove to us that they are deserving of our care. So why won't we say it? So finding ways to work that in, if that is a challenge area for you, could be hugely impactful to the people that you're interacting with. And it could get the ball rolling, because if I hear Jennifer tell me that she cares about me, guess what? That's a message that I might be willing to pay forward. So when we think of service model, it's really that entirety of care, showing what we're about, relating on that human level, and not being afraid to say it.
And remembering that you may not always be matched with someone that's willing to do this as well. So don't let yourself be knocked off balance when that happens, and just stick to your guns. I am caring about the situation, and I will learn as much as I can, and I will get as far as I can. And if you're authentic, that person will come around in time. So again, don't think everyone you interact with is going to be willing to share everything with you or willing to co-create a plan, but just focus on yourself and how you can create an environment where they're more likely to do so.
A couple questions in the chat, and we're good on time. So I just, Charlie made a comment. I think it's important, and it affirms what you have said, which is it's important to remember why we listen. We need to listen to understand first and not just to respond. And then a question from Nicholas, sorry. many students have a hard time asking for help. How do we best support those students who fail to communicate or utilize resources when in need due to fear of judgment?
I think the key here is that engagement piece and discovery. So you're going to start by creating an environment where when you're talking to them, whether it be written or over phone, that they truly are feeling that you want to be there with them. So with your tone or your word choice, like, I want to be here, I want to help you. And then listening for the things they're not saying. So their voice performance, what do they sound like? For example, if they're saying, I don't want to be in this class anymore, I need to drop it. My teacher maybe doesn't like me, is their thoughts, right? So you're leaning into their perception is their reality. There is truth in that to them, but we need to figure out more. We need to say, okay, share with me, tell me more about why you're feeling this way. You're going to look for more details. Keep asking questions till you get the details. Because what you might find is maybe the student feels that way because they got a 0 on their assignment. Maybe they didn't know how to do APA citations. And you're able to jump in and say, hey, I can understand why you would feel that way, but let's go through your feedback and we can actually maybe figure out why you're getting these grades. And I also have a really cool resource. Are you willing to go through these steps with me? And creating that trust from the beginning and asking those questions to learn what's really going on, not taking things for that surface level, will allow the student to open up more and see, wow, Stephanie really does care about me. She really does want to help. I'm going to share a little bit more. Anything you'd like to add, Stephanie?
UAGC has such wonderful resources, so many resources, but that's where resource matching really comes into play. And look, I'll be honest, I was the student that was not going to ask for support, even though I may have needed it. But opening up in a conversation where an advisor might have individually recommended to me something based on my specific situation would have been very different than me having to ask for support. And so I think we can't underestimate the power of an instructor or an advisor or anyone for that matter, making a recommendation based on an individual situation. And like Jennifer said, it really all comes back to that engagement and discovery. Are you creating an environment where the other person will open up to you about what's going on? And from that, can you resource match and co-create that plan? So it doesn't have to be, okay, student, I believe you need support. Here are your resources. It is bigger than that. It's the understanding that goes into it and the conversation itself that is going to drive that.
Another thought here, and this may be one of our last ones here, but is this idea of being curious. But it may be uncomfortable to feel like that you're digging for information or prying. Nicole specifically asks, how do you navigate this? Because it is different when you're with a family member who you already have that relationship with. So what would you need to know to help someone through a difficult situation? What would you want to know? So it's like that balance of remaining curious, but not feeling prying or like you're being nosy.
Yeah, I think it's about knowing where you're at. So in what environment are you in right now? So as an academic advisor, my role is to help you with the stresses of academics. So when I ask my questions, they're all going to be targeted towards removing that stress at the academic level. So I'm not going to be asking questions about their personal life. So they may say, I'm feeling overwhelmed in my class right now. Like my grandmother is not feeling well. She's in the hospital. My questions are not going to be targeted towards anything going on with the grandmother in the hospital. They're going to be, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm very grateful that you gave me a call so I can help you. I want to work through how I can remove some stresses for you at school. Can you share with me how this has impacted your ability to do homework? I'm shifting to my role in this relationship as an academic advisor, but support. I'm caring in that capacity. As a friend, that may be different. I may need to ask more of those personal questions, but it's always important to remember what environment are you in and what relationship do you have with the person you're talking to.
Stephanie, do you want to try tackling this question? We can probably do it succinctly, but what do you do when you have the bad news though? Like sometimes you're going to have answers for students that they aren't happy about. And so you try to focus the conversation, but essentially you're providing information that is going to be uncomfortable or difficult.
Right. And that happens, right? I'm glad to tackle that one because that's everything's not always sunshine and roses, right? But it comes back to that relationship building that you're doing throughout the beginning of your interaction, where you're setting the stage where it's a safe environment, that we're in this together. And although we might come up with solutions that are not the ones you're looking for, we are going to be honest about what options are available and help you work through which one might be best for you. something that we see happen sometimes is the fluff, right? We want to talk around something that's bad news, and we don't want to get to the heart of it. But if we've established a caring relationship throughout the interaction, being direct is the next step. And so one thing we challenge people is be direct and kind. Tell it like it is, but in a kind way. And a lot of times that furthers the relationship. People are very appreciative of having the information that's accurate and understanding what next steps are there. And so it's not always pleasant to know that that conversation is coming, but it's laying the groundwork of the care and of the, we're here either way. If it goes a way that we want it to, that is fantastic. And if not, we're still here and we're here to support you, and we are going to get through this together. Would you add anything, Jennifer?
No, that was well done.
Well, our time is coming to an end. We thank you, Stephanie and Jennifer, for your wisdom and insights. Thank you to the audience for your participation in today's session. We encourage you to attend the additional amazing sessions coming up for the rest of the day and the next 2 days at TLC, and enjoy your day. Happy Tuesday.
Thank you.
Bye
Everybody.
all. Thank you.